Linda here, and I'm the author of The Gift of Multiple Sclerosis, Living Fully and Joyfully Without Depression. And first of all, I want to share with you that I actually was paralyzed almost 37 years ago. In 1984, I woke up on Thanksgiving Day in the hospital, and I couldn't use anything on the left side of my body. After 2 weeks of extensive testing, medical doctors diagnosed me as having multiple sclerosis. So that's the reason I'm capturing this video, so you'll see me. First of all, in about exactly like 6 months, I'll be celebrating my 70th birthday. I was 32 when I was paralyzed and diagnosed as having multiple sclerosis. And at 69, I'm living my best life. And I don't use a cane or a walker or a wheelchair. And I don't take pharmaceutical medication. Now I use nutraceuticals. And I'm a vegan. I've been a vegan for about 19 years. And so that's the reason that I'm having this communications, to basically share and prove to you that you don't have to be sick. Again, I was paralyzed on the entire left side of my body, but I chose to leave the traditional route and go and seek alternative healing. That was going on 37 years ago. Well, first of all, the reason I made that decision is because my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer when I was 11 years young. And I watched her, she was like in her early 30s, and I watched her deteriorate from a beautiful woman into incapacitated patient that was in and out of the hospital on a often level, on very frequently. Anyway, I'm having some issues with my hair, but long story short, so that's the reason I chose not to go the traditional route, because I knew where that route would lead me, because I watched my mother. She was beautiful, and I watched her deteriorate in front of my eyes and be in a wheelchair, and it affected her marriage to my father, etc., etc. So I chose, what did I have to lose? I chose to go to an alternative route, and that was in 1984 that I was paralyzed, and by 1985, it was the end of 1984, and so by 1985, I had decided that I didn't want to stick with a traditional medicine. First of all, I signed myself out of the hospital because after 2 weeks, they was just probing me and giving me all kinds of electronic shocks and MRIs and spinal taps and et cetera, and they weren't giving me a solution to my problem, and they didn't, diagnose what was wrong with me. And after 2 weeks, 2 weeks, I was like unhappy with my with one of the doctor's bedside manners. So I called my dad and told him, even though I didn't live with my dad, I told him to come and pick me up and take me home, because I lived alone, but I wanted out of the hospital, right? So basically, I signed myself out of the hospital. I figured, let me just step out on faith and see let the Creator take care of me. And again, that was 1984. And my medical doctor, he was my overseeing medical doctor. He was calling me at home and checking up on me. And that's when I shared with him that I wanted to try an alternative route. Why not? Okay? I had watched my mother, she took like, seemed like it was 30 medications a day. And it didn't help her, so I didn't want to go that route. So anyway, so I told my doctor, and he was open, he was supportive, and he actually volunteered to send me, he referred me to his chiropractic physician, who I called, and I started seeing him 3 times a week. And with, first of all, the chiropractic physician, he x-rayed my body and saw where, that I had injuries. I had been in a car accident, and so my neck was affected. The skeleton, the bone in my neck was affected, and he saw other issues in my skeleton, uh, the skeleton of my body. So he adjusted my body up accordingly. And I went to see him 3 times a week. So after several treatments, I was walking again, thank goodness. So that was awesome. So, but when my company managers at my company found out that I was no longer under a medical doctor's supervision, they ordered me to come back to work. So what's a girl to do? I was single and independent, so I needed my income, so I had to go back to work. So when I got back to work, for legal reasons, they insisted that I go back to my neurologist, the original neurologist that was treating me, to get a release, a doctor's release to come back to work. So I did. And when I went to my doctor's office, he was surprised, he was pleasantly surprised to see that I was walking. And he said that, and that's when I learned that they had actually, treated me and believed I had multiple sclerosis. Well, I had never heard of multiple sclerosis. So just hearing that term devastated me, okay? And I was emotionally distraught. So I called a very good friend of mine, my God, I was a mess. And I called her and I told her what the doctors had been treating me for, diagnosed me as having multiple sclerosis. At the time, I believed if they had said cancer, I could have dealt with it better emotionally, mentally, but because at least I'd heard of cancer. My mom had cancer, but I never heard of MS. But my friend, being positive, she persuaded me to think positive, and et cetera, et cetera. So she was able to calm me down, and she was there for me. She basically was my what do you call it? Accountability partner whenever I needed to, because I was a professional, businesswoman. So whenever I wanted to go to a networking opportunity or something, and it didn't matter if it was out of town or whatever, she volunteered and she drove me. So that was good. Anyway, that was way back in 1985. So again, I was working. I didn't have a choice. I had to go to work. And what I did is I was under the care of a natural physician, Dr. Alvina Fulton. And when she learned that I was diagnosed as having multiple sclerosis, she prescribed some natural herbs for me to consume. They were extremely nasty. Oh, they were awful. But what was I to do? I was diagnosed as having multiple sclerosis. So I drank it. It was, ooh, it was dark. I remember it was awful. But I drank it and it helped. So that was 1985, and then 1986, I was still going to work every day, and I changed my diet. I changed to, I was learning, diet is everything, so I changed to a vegetarian diet at the time, and I actually, okay, I actually eliminated a lot of things that I had been consuming, which when I was first paralyzed, oh my goodness, I kept a gallon of ice cream in my freezer and would consume it. You know, that was one of my favorite things to eat. Okay, that said, so I was a vegetarian for several years, and I lost weight, and I was looking good, and etc., and I was doing fine. But I had a setback, and when I did have a setback, um, I I chose not I chose I don't know, I changed, and I finally got back on animals. Well, first of all, it's hard to be a vegetarian. It was hard because we live in a world where, there's family barbecues and et cetera, which is what was happening in my world. And there was a family barbecue, and I chose to bring a turkey so we could barbecue a turkey. And my sister, I don't know what she was thinking, but she put the whole turkey, she barbecued the turkey without cleaning out the gut, right? It tasted like ham. But anyway, that was my journey. I gave up, you know, um, um, meat, and really didn't want any animals in my home, and didn't want to cook it. Didn't want, didn't even wasn't interested in the man who ate animals, etc., etc. Okay, finally, I was doing well, and I was, but I was working, but I had MS. But again, when I told my chiropractor what the medical doctors had diagnosed me as having multiple sclerosis, he assured me, Linda, you don't have MS. You're a mess, but you don't have MS. So his diagnosis was that I had subluxation degeneration, and he absolutely he forbid me from looking up MS because he didn't want me to have that mindset of MS. So he told me not to look it up or any of that. So I didn't. But as I would see things about MS on television, and I could relate to some of the symptoms that I heard them. I could identify with some of the symptoms that they said MS patients experience. One being continence. I was dealing with continence, and I actually dealt with continence for several decades before I got iron grip control over that. But anyway, I chose to, I was open to anything natural that people were recommending, but, and at some point, because I was walking and etc., but I had, issues with MS and as some of you know, you can't always look at a person and tell they have multiple sclerosis. So by this time, I was out in the marketplace helping other people, individuals with health and wellness issues. And one of my clients was an MS patient, because I was actually marketing my business on the radio, and an MS patient, she and her husband, they reached out to me. So I shared with her a natural product that I was using that had helped me, and she was severely, incapacitated. She couldn't even hold her head up. Thank goodness she had a loving husband and supportive husband that was right there to basically, help her. And I found myself actually envying her, and she was seriously disabled. Trust me when I said that. But I envied her because at least, you could see her, issue, and, she had help. There was nobody that was helping me. And that's one of the reasons I wrote my autobiography, is because I wanted you to, you know, I felt people wanted to know my secret, and I felt deep within my life's journey was the secret to how I've overcome the devastating effects of multiple sclerosis. So it's my journey has been full of personal challenges in on top of the MS, etc., etc. I actually had the opportunity to move to Africa, where I married a Nigerian, and I lived between the continents for 2 years. And unfortunately, he was not able to get a visa to come to America, because I met him in America, and he was deported, and the immigration department did not honor my petition as his wife to bring him back to America. Even though when I first went to Africa and to marry him, I saw documents proving that they were going to bring him back, right back to the country to marry this white girl. So I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't know that I couldn't have the same privileges. So, I married my husband, because he said he didn't come back and marry her because he didn't want to, he wasn't in love with her, and he didn't want to, be, have to be controlled by that. So anyway, he chose to marry me. I thought he loved me. So we got married, and immigrations, they denied every attempt that I had for him to come to America, which caused a lot of tension in our marriage. He thought I wasn't really trying, but I did try. But what I learned through that experience is that black and white don't have the same privileges. Black people and white people don't have the same, privileges. So what happened is that finally I returned home without my husband and without my good job, because I took a year leave of absence, and it was under the understanding that my job wasn't necessarily guaranteed when I wanted to return from my leave of absence. And when I attempted to come back to my job, they applied, they used the fact that they terminated me from my job. So this was 20 years. So I was good with it, because I had this mantra, 20 and out. So I had worked for 20 years, so I was okay. It was mentally with that. But long story short, then all of a sudden there I am with MS in my early 40s, starting all over again, right? So I started, when I moved, I actually moved to Africa, and I lived between the continents for 2 years. So there I was now. When I moved to Africa, I owned, when I first, decided to go to Africa, I owned a Cadillac. I had to sell it when I found out that I was going to have to go to Africa permanently, because my husband wasn't able to come to America. So I sold my car, and when the economy in Nigeria wouldn't afford for me to stay there, I came back, and now all of a sudden I don't have a car. So I'm on public transportation. It was totally different. lifestyle for me, and I didn't have the income that I was used to, so I had to start all over. I was living in an apartment near on the north side of Chicago, near the beach, that didn't even have heat in the winter. But I didn't have a choice. I just, what I would do is I would take temporary assignments, and also I would work in the go out to the marketplace and market my health and wellness supplements and African clothes, etc., etc. And the good thing is that the African community embraced me as family, specifically the Nigerian. That, I was known as my wife. So basically, they 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 accepted me and embraced me into their family and made sure that I always had a room on their table so I could market whatever products that I was marketing. And that helped me to keep a roof over my head. That was good. I was able to pay my bills. But that's all I could do. So that was like, what, 1995. I started full time as a businesswoman and marketing in the marketplace in Chicago. And by 1997, a lot of people were calling me about this juice, Tahitian noni, and I wasn't open because one of the products that I was sharing at the time was hyssop, and what I could read about, what I read about Tahitian noni, it had the same capabilities as this, what is it, is hyssop's, another product I have been marketing to my customers for some time. So what I did is, what happened, yeah, that was in 1997. My sister, Teresa, had a cancer scare. She had a thyroid issue, and she had a mass growing on her thyroid, and the medical doctors wanted to do surgery to remove the mass. Well, while I was in Nigeria, I met a natural physician, Elizabeth Cafaro, because when she heard about me when I was staying in Nigeria, she was impressed. When any time somebody heard about me and that I had been diagnosed with MS, they was naturally impressed. They wanted to meet me in person. So she requested, my husband was trying to get her to distribute this herb that I had brought to Nigeria, but she wanted to meet me in person. And when she met me, she shared a lot of value. She added a lot of value to my journey. Actually, she gave me a workbook that she had created. She was actually once married to a medical physician, and by that time she was a natural physician. And in this book, it just basically shared that for every organ in the body, there's a fruit or a vegetable that, it's called a signature plant that actually looks like that particular organ, and it helps that organ. So, and she also confirmed that the body has an innate ability to heal itself, which is the innate ability is the immune system. If you give the body the right food, if you put it in the right condition, it can actually kick in and heal. So when Teresa had her cancer scare, I encouraged her to try a natural wellness. Why? That was my thing, right? Not to not go traditional. So I pushed her on Tahitian noni. She took me to brunch for my birthday, and while we were together, I encouraged her to make an appointment to see my chiropractic physician. He was a naturopath doctor, and he happened to have opening that day, so we went, straight from brunch, and he spoke, his sophisticated language, and she could relate to it, and so next thing I knew, she was ordering 4 bottles. Well, I hadn't tried the noni at that point, and I said I didn't want her to do anything that I wouldn't do. I wouldn't recommend it. So I decided to purchase a bottle. And it was, I had to justify the cost. It was my birthday, and I was like, okay, women usually, they treat themselves on their birthday. So I invested in 1 bottle, and I'm the type of person that if I spend my money, I'm going to use it. So I started drinking it right away. And at the time, I had been experiencing in what is it? Well, I was dealing with insomnia, and I was also dealing with constipation and chronic fatigue. I was in my early 40s, and by 2 p.m. my day was over. I thought, because my mom, she was in a nursing home in her early 40s, and when she made her transition, she was on oxygen. So I believed my number was up. When I started drinking this noni, I was like an ever-ready battery. And with that, I really want to stop there because there's so much more that I need to share. But yes, I was like an ever-ready battery. And then people all over the Chicago area were like requesting the products from me and signing up as distributors, et cetera, et cetera. So with that, that was just the beginning of the beginning for my life change. So I want to stop there because there's so much more I need to share with you, but I don't want to do it all in one a video. So I'm going to stop here, and I'll talk to you in the next video. All the best.